Hi everyone, Neil Welch, agility coach here. I'm going to talk you through some of the advances on the reactive strength stuff we talked about previously. We talked about using skipping as a really good way to develop some of that bounciness that we've got in our technique. Okay, and as I said before, we'll talk a little bit more now about reactive strength, just in case you haven't caught up on that one. Reactive strength we think of as our bounciness. So it's a combination of pre-activation, which is switching the muscles on early, and then being really able to utilize or use some of the elasticity that exists in our tendons and our muscles. So again, a reactive strength exercise is one that involves some form of bounciness. So people often talk about this with a box jump as being a reactive strength or a plyometric exercise where they're stood still and they're jumping up onto a box. There's none of the bounce, there's none of the use, that elasticity in the system. So you can park them off to one side as something that develops this reactive strength, or often we call it plyometric ability. So advancing on from our skipping, we should have a basic ability to stay bouncy in our feet then. We might have developed some of our patterns with our single leg skips and our runs. So we've got good reactive strength qualities down that leg. We've got that good bounciness. Now what we want to do is try and push that on. Okay, so skipping's grand, but it doesn't bring enough momentum and enough force that you would need in your side steps. Okay, so we're going to introduce an exercise that's essentially like double leg skipping. Okay, but we're going to introduce a little bit more amplitude to it. We call it a pogo. Okay, so dead easy. I'm just going to show you this just to start off with and talk you through some of the points. Okay, we're on 2 feet. And we're just trying to develop a little bit of spring. Now, what we're trying to focus on particularly here is the ankle stiffness. So if you watch me from side on, what you're going to see is me, as I lift up, I'm going to cock my ankle up, and as I hit the floor, I'm going to spring that foot down to the ground, and that's where I'm going to get a lot of my bounciness from. This takes a lot of practice, and we talked about some of these foot strengthening exercises in one of our foot strength videos as well. Okay, so from side on, again, you just focus on seeing how I cock that ankle back up. And the most important thing here, while I want height, and again we talked about this last time as well, is I want the sensation that it feels bouncy. So pick an image in your head. It might be a pet rabbit or a dog that you've got that's particularly springy. It might be a favorite player that you've got in mind who has a very good side steps, a very jinky runner, or bouncy ball hitting the floor. Those are the kind of images that we want going through our head as we perform these exercises. It has to feel bouncy. Okay, so I'll show you one more time. I got my bouncy ball image in my head, and the bouncy ball just bouncing off the pavement, and I'm going to develop my reactive strength. And once it feels good, then we just introduce a bit more amplitude. Okay, now the next progression with that is to introduce some of our pre-activation before it. Okay, so we talked about our drop squats as being a really important method of developing our pre-activation speed. What we can start to do this is introduce a little bit more plyometric or reactive strength. So the next one we're going to do is a drop squat to a jump. So rather than just focusing on the ankle, we're focusing on the whole chain. So again, I'll show you this and talk you through. Nice and light on the feet. Okay, show you from side on. Nice and light on the feet. Okay, so our drop squat position, the hips fire backwards. Obviously the hips then drop close to the floor. I get my lean with the upper body, my weight's on the front of the feet. I've got my nice wide base of support, and I'm developing that reactive strength. Again, I always have that image in my head. For me, it's a bouncy ball hitting the floor. So again, nice and light on the feet. And then I can develop my pre-activation even more by sticking the landing. And again, if you want a bit more of a challenge, drop squat jump, and we can see we can stick the landing on one leg. And again, we start working on our single leg pre-activation abilities. So there's 2 nice little progressions that we can start using to further develop our reactive strength, and again really push on our performance on pitch.